Hi everyone, I am Soraya Zveers and I am currently enrolled in the Mentored Business class and I'll be graduating in December of 2018 with an associate's degree in business management. The agenda for this presentation is to identify the 7 soft skills and state the importance of each, share real-life examples whether they are positive or negative, share my mentor's perspective and advice on each of the 7 soft skills, share 3 interesting international business practices. I will also share how my mentored experience has contributed to my personal and professional growth and development, and lastly, I will share the importance of following the 7 soft skills during this mentorship experience. The first skill I would like to talk about is communicating effectively. This skill is important to have in both your personal and professional life. I feel this is important because in order to be successful in any business, class, group, team, etc., you need to have effective communication. All members need to have the ability to voice their concerns, questions, ideas. In addition, everyone needs to be able to communicate in a way that a person or people listening can understand. Having communication presented and interpreted clearly is a formula for success in any situation. The example I would like to share for communicating effectively is from Curtis, and the advice he gave was, if presenting a presentation, do not fill slides up with information. Have main points to talk about for each topic and that's it. In other words, do not read word for word off of a slideshow presentation. And the other example he gave me was, when sending an email with updates, do not type a 3-page report. People just want to know the facts and the details, and if anybody wants more information, they can always send you an email and ask for that, and you can provide more details to the ones who want to know. The second soft skill I'd like to talk about is acting responsibly. This skill is important because it shows that the person is taking responsibility for their own actions. If this skill is not present in the workplace, people will constantly be pointing fingers at one another and say it's not their fault so they can put the blame on someone else's shoulders. The example here is one that Curtis shared with me was when I was a part of a payroll problem-solving team. We were trying to figure out the root cause of errors, and I was willing to able and own up and take responsibility for those errors that were taking place. I did not get upset, and I did not try to point fingers at other people like employees or supervisors. I owned up to the mistakes and took steps on how I could overcome them errors and reduce them. The third soft skill is working productively. This skill is important to have in any team or workplace because it is where you tell someone you are going to do it and you need to do it. You also need to learn how to prioritize your work and have the ability to monitor your own progress throughout the day to complete the projects and tasks that are assigned to you. Curtis gave me this example, was that you need to prioritize your workload. If someone asks you to do a task for them, you need to ask for a deadline. In other terms, you and the person asking need to set up on an agreed timeline, and you need to follow through and complete that task on time. The fourth soft skill is working cooperatively. This skill is essential to every workplace. It is important because you need to have individuals who work well with others. You need employees that can recognize conflict in a team, but also they know how to solve it. The most important aspect of this skill, I feel, is having respect for everyone that you work with. The example Curtis gave me for working cooperatively was, eventually everyone, no matter what, will have to work with someone that they do not like. His real-life example was that even if you don't like someone you work with, you need to keep your composure and act professional because you need to maintain a positive work environment. And the fifth soft skill is demonstrate integrity. This skill is important because it shows that one respects people and the property around them. Having this skill also shows that you follow all policies and procedures per the company's guidelines. This example that Curtis shared me was actually quite funny. A few years ago, after being with his company, he decided to buy 2 coffee pots, one for engineering and one for maintenance. As you can guess, it didn't take long for the word to spread throughout the company that Curtis spent $600 a piece on 2 different coffee pots. At first, Curtis did not see an issue with purchasing them, but once people started talking, it made him realize that it was not fair, because the company would not buy $600 coffee pots for every single department. The moral of the story is that it can take years to build integrity, but it can be ruined in a matter of seconds. The sixth soft skill is thinking critically and creatively. This skill is important because it shows that one has the ability to comprehend a task or reason behind a problem and they realize that they need to make a decision. When they make a decision, they use all of the knowledge they've gathered and outweigh the negatives and positives until they come up with the best solution to the problem. The example Curtis gave me was, someone chose to execute a project, but they only had 50% of the needed information. He went on and mentioned that some people feel comfortable with taking that 50% risk and making a decision. but his personal preference is having 80% details and 20% risk or unknowns. He said you don't want to invest too much time into something if it will not add value. The advice that Curtis gave me was you need to have information and details to back up your decision, because it's most likely people are going to ask you why you chose this and why you are doing it that way. So you need to get as much information you can before you make a decision. And the final soft skill is develop global awareness. This is an important skill because the world is filled with different people, cultures, beliefs, and etc. There will always be people next to you that are different. This may be the way they dress, talk, learn, the foods they eat, or the beliefs that they have. The key here is to accepting everyone and understanding that they have a different way of living, but you need to treat everyone equally. The example that Curtis gave me was to just look at the news. He mentioned that cultural differences still exist today, and we have a long ways to go until everyone is truly treated equally. The next step I'm going to talk about is why it is important to follow the 7 soft skills during my mentorship. It was important for me to follow the guidelines NTC has set up for the 7 soft skills because during my mentorship I was representing NTC. My actions, attitude, and presence tied directly back to NTC because I was here for a mentorship that NTC required me to take before I could graduate. If I had a poor performance with my mentor, it would reflect poorly on NTC as well. The next things I'm going to talk about are 3 interesting international business practices, and I found these on according to Business News Daily. The first is from Russia, and this is being on time is one of the most important components of a business etiquette protocol. However, the situation is completely different in Russia. Being on time is of the utmost importance, at least for one party that is. While you are expected to arrive not a second later than the scheduled time, Russians feel free to arrive as late as they desire, and you should not expect any apology about it. Thus, the move is directed to provoke and test the patience of their business counterparts. The second is from China. When doing business in China, you better have a gift ready when you show up for a business meeting. However, you should be prepared for a rejection or 3 rejections to be more specific. In China, the tradition is that gifts are refused up to 3 times before they are accepted. Yet it is very important not to stop offering the present until the present is finally taken. The third is from Brazil, and expect a complete invasion of personal space if doing business in Brazil. While it could be considered impolite in the U.S., in Brazil it is customary to stand extremely close and to use lots of physical contact while talking. While the normal reaction might be to back away, those who do risk losing out on a potential business relationship since it is considered disrespectful. Now I'm going to share how this mentored experience contributed to my personal and professional growth. One major lesson and skill I learned throughout this mentorship was facing my fears. I learned that you have to do the tasks that you fear the most over and over again until they no longer intimidate you. It sounds easy, but taking little steps and repeating it over and over again, eventually that fear will be minimal if non-existent. I also found that the Strength Finder assessment benefited me because I was able to learn what my top 5 strengths were. This will help me when I have to interview, so I can share what my top strengths are and be confident about them. My mentor has also been an inspiration to me for years, and I was grateful when he finally got to be my mentor this fall semester. He encouraged me to push through classes and that hard work and dedication would pay off. I think he was able to motivate me so much because his story was so similar to mine. In conclusion, during this mentorship, I was able to learn the 7 soft skills that NTC has set into place, but I also had the opportunity to practice and execute them in my mentor's business. These are skills that all employers will be looking for, so having the opportunity to practice them is key for a successful future. I was able to learn real-life examples from my mentor on each of the 7 soft skills, which also helped me understand each skill even better. Lastly, I was able to learn different international business practices and compare those to the ones that we practice here in the United States, and I found that part of this assignment very interesting.